So. We'll just go right into it. I'm sure everybody wants to hear that. All right, good afternoon. If you wouldn't mind, please stand as we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Go ahead and remain standing as we acknowledge anyone in our Rotary family that we should keep in our thoughts. Is there anyone that comes to mind? Okay, seeing none, just go ahead and take a moment, think of someone close to you, and we'll give them a little bit of love and good thoughts today. So. Okay, thank you. All right. We will welcome some guests today, and I generally like to call out the club member, hand him the mic to introduce their guest. So, Karen, you're closest to the mic. Why don't you go ahead and get us started, please?
I have a guest, my coworker, Daryl. Where are you? Daryl Vagey.
Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead, please stand. All right, Judge Johnson has a guest.
He's no guest. He's my fellow lookalike, Ryan Santee, Boys and Girls Club CEO. So welcome him. Thank you.
And Dave Fox.
Hi there. I brought my neighbor from North Crest who actually used to be a member of this club and is technically a visiting Rotarian from South Pasadena, California, but Dick Ross.
Okay. We have some other guests of the club here today. Allie Reagan, who's a guest of our speaker, Coach Dresser, and Ashley Thompson, guest of the club with Gene Cressy. Right back there.
So you may have heard this rumor that I'm retiring, and Ashley Thompson is the new president and CEO of United Way of Story County, and I've put her name in for membership as well. Ashley comes to us from Unity Point. She actually lives in Ames, so she also has had experience with our asset process, which is how we allocate funding through the city, the county, United Way, and Iowa State student government. She was 5 years a volunteer as a City of Ames representative. So I hope you can help me welcome Ashley over the next few months, but even beyond that. So Ashley Thompson.
Thank you, Gene. Happy to have you, Ashley. And we'd also like to recognize a new member that we'll be recognizing next week. Randy Olson, I think, is here, over here. Welcome, Randy. All right. Louis, take us away. Thank you, Louis. All right, I'm going to continue to do my weekly plug for the Overflow Thrift Store Rotary Club Textiles donation. So I'm going to come give this to Sandy Swanson. So again, get those forms filled out and over to Sandy Sonson with Overflow Thrift Store, please, and help us with our clothing drive. So I would like to invite Kent and Jeannie to the up here to grab one of our buckets. Good to see everybody back in person again. It's been a while. And get out that money. If you've got anything personal, professionally that you'd like to promote, I'm going to start with a brag for one of my favorite Iowa State football players of all time, a great guy, probably a better guy than he is a football player, Brock Purdy, who did a fantastic job yesterday. Hope you got a chance to watch him. It's just really a pleasure to see him excelling and a chance to get to the Super Bowl. So here, go Iowa State.
And as a reminder, please introduce yourself and your business as well, if you have a business that you're actively involved with, too.
My name is Jenny Legates, and in honor of our speaker today, I'm going to brag on my daughter who 30 years ago won the International Women's Wrestling Championship. She came home with a silver medal in Sofia, Bulgaria. My daughter was the first girl to be on a wrestling team in the state of Illinois, and she is now the women's wrestling coach for her high school's wrestling team. So, welcome, Coach Dresser.
What is really neat is Allie also is from Illinois and was an early innovator, if you will, for wrestling.
Well, you may remember the name Margaret Legates. She was from Libertyville High School. She is now teaches at Normal West High School.
Cool. All right, we have a lot of folks here attending.
It's me again, Judge Johnston, Boys and Girls Club. I want to say thank you to Coach Dresser and Allie and his team and Robin Wilson. They do a great job of supporting our club and having fun with golf tournaments and all that. But Coach Dresser, Joe Reimers is over here at our table. He's a Humboldt guy. I think you Humboldt guys all run together, so that's a fun fact. And then Steve Goodhue here says he could probably take you in a 2-minute match. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
Steve, you got to put money in.
I'd like to see that.
Oh, I'll venture back.
Oh, we'll get that side of the room.
Jenny, I'll leave you the front of the crowd, and I'll take the back of the... Here, Georgie.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Georgia Bloom. I am giving my money to somebody.
We're going to put some of it in here.
I'm giving my money in honor of the sun today. I've been down in Atlanta, Georgia with my daughter and son-in-law for 7 weeks and tried to get home in that big snowstorm. And I just wondered what you all did with the sun because I hadn't seen it until today.
True.
Hello, I'm Sandy Swanson with Overflow Thrift Store, and we are bragging today. I'm putting in money today in celebration of the fact that we closed on a new building this morning at 919 East Lincoln Way. Many of you who will remember when I presented to this group about a year ago, we talked about a new construction project that we were talking about. But God brought us instead this new building that meets all of our needs at less than half the cost of construction, which is super exciting. We have embarked now on a $1.5 million capital campaign that will help us get into the building by May of this year. The most exciting thing about this is that it allows us to give more into the community. Last year, Overflow gave $172,000 to organizations in this community. Successful ownership, or bringing us to ownership of this building, will allow us to double that. So we're super excited about that. We also recycled 600,000 pounds of material last year. This new building will allow us to expand that as well. So join us in celebrating.
Is that the Hickland Power Sports building? Okay, cool. Good to know where you're going to be. I'm Allison Walter, and I'm kind of, I don't know, weird to say, retired. I've been working with some software startups here for the last few years, and decided it was time to take a little break and do something different. And my husband said, "It's fine, it won't last long, you'll find something else to do." So, but I have been spending the last couple of months really focusing my Rotary commitment with the International Skiing Fellowship of Rotarians. And so with that, I have a $50 contribution, because next week I will not be here. I will be skiing in Mount Bachelor outside of Bend, Oregon, and we're celebrating our 50th anniversary as a fellowship. So pretty exciting to celebrate that, and we have about 75 international Rotarians joining us for the week. So,
Excellent. Thank you, Allison.
Allison, congratulations. My name is Park Woodle. Career was real estate, and I'm retired also. It can be fun. I want to call your attention to what's on the table, and will be announced again. Our district is sponsoring 2 Rotary Foundation socials. One will be in Boone, and that'll be on the 19th of February. And then one will be in Grimes on the 26th of February. Basically just a casual thing. Spouses and partners and friends are invited to join you. And brief, just letting you know what the foundation is all about. It's a good thing, believe me.
I'm going to give, on behalf of somebody who's not able to be here and typically is online, but recently, Sarah Buck was held out for her contribution to Mary Greeley, in addition to her phenomenal contribution to this community and the Ames Rotary Club. Actually, you'll have to apologize. I have to apologize. We're technically the Rotary Club of Ames, because Sarah Buck went through an audit with the IRS, and they said, that is your name. So Sarah's gone through a lot. So I'm going to want to recognize Sarah, who's not obviously to be here, but she's always online. So Sarah, thank you for your contribution to this community.
Jim Lohr, I'm retired, but my favorite pet project is my website, which is called J-Lohr Brain Health, which provides resources for, free resources, list resources for people who have mental health diagnoses. But that's not what I want to talk about. I saw an excellent movie this week, and I hope you'll get to see it yet. It's called The Boys in the Boat. How many of you have seen it? Okay, excellent. For those of you who don't, it's a wonderful sports movie if you're under 65. If you're over 65, like I am, I'm 79, I'm older than most of you, it's a wonderful insight into the greatest generation and what they grew up with. Those are our parents, et cetera, who went and won World War II. These are the kids who did that. It's a wonderful movie. Please go see it. It's at North Grand Cinema. They're only here until about Thursday. Seats are wonderful. I think you can buy booze, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Wonderful movie to see. I hope you see it.
No, George is next.
George Belitzos. I flunked retirement, full-time volunteer, and I want to brag about one of the volunteer jobs that I'm carrying out. District 6000 created a action team and asked me to chair it, and it's to prevent human trafficking. I recruited 7 clubs, this goes back 2 years, to become part of the action team. Each club made a commitment to fight human trafficking in their own communities. And we wrote a little grant and got the district to match it, and we had funding, and let me tell you, all 7 of those clubs not only educated their own club on human trafficking and made them aware, but they also held events in their communities. 5 of them have entered the schools with prevention programs on how to avoid being entrapped by traffickers, especially over the internet. And one of the clubs even wrote their own curriculum. They got it approved. Getting into the schools with this topic is harder than you might think. So I'm really proud of those schools. Randy represents the Ames Club. Our club is one of the members. This group has grown now to 17 clubs in our district. Last year, all of the Central Iowa clubs got together and decided to raise money to help fund the survivor service organizations. They get no money from the state. They're all funded by donations, and they're struggling. Last year, over 600 women were rescued and treated for and received services for human trafficking. They're not getting any state funding. So they raised, those clubs raised $45,000 to help fund those survivor organizations. And those were the Central Iowa clubs. Then some of the other clubs raised $2,500, and they ended up funding 6 different survivor service organizations. Really proud of them. I'm really proud of Rotary, and just really proud that our district is really carrying the ball on this in the state of Iowa.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tammy Kuhlbeck from Stevens Auditorium. I put a couple flyers out. We start our spring semester shows tomorrow night with Jesus Christ Superstar. But the more exciting news is that we are opening up 8 new restrooms. We did our flushing yesterday with some donors. A few of them are in the room that helped make sure that all the toilets flushed and the sinks worked. And even though we had a scare after that freeze, we lost 2 sinks, but they can be fixed. We're happy to be making Stevens more inclusive and accessible for all of our patrons. So come out and check out our new bathrooms.
And as an employee, I am thrilled to have these new restrooms so we don't have to send people upstairs, down the hall, over the stairs, and to the right.
Great. Wonderful. Wonderful to hear from you all. Thank you, Jenny and Kent, for running the brag bucket today. All right, so without further ado, let's bring up Katie McMahon to introduce our guest speaker today.
Good afternoon. It is an honor for me to introduce Coach Dresser to all of you today. In a room full of Cyclone fans, I'm sure you all know that Kevin Dresser is the head wrestling coach of Iowa State. I thought I'd share a little background on the journey that led him to Ames. Born in Fort Dodge, Dresser was a 2-time high school wrestling state champion and 4-time place winner at Humboldt High School. He then attended the University of Iowa, where he was NCAA National Championship, a 2-time NCAA All-American, and 2-time Big Ten Conference champion. Dresser's coach at Iowa was wrestling legend Dan Gable. In 1986, he was given the Mike Howard Award as the most valuable wrestler for the Hawkeyes that season. Coach Dresser then coached under Dan Gable at Iowa for several years following his graduation, then accepted a position as head wrestling coach at Grundy High School in Grundy, Virginia, leading them to 8 Virginia state titles in 8 years. He then moved to Christiansburg, Virginia, and built their wrestling team from scratch and led them to 5 consecutive Virginia state team championships. Dresser then went on to be the head coach for the Virginia Tech Hokies for over a decade, where he was named the NWCA Coach of the Year in 2016. Prior to the end of 2017, Coach Dresser accepted Iowa State's head wrestling coach job and moved to Ames with his wife Penny, daughters Emma and Anna, and son Jack. Dresser has rebuilt the Cyclone wrestling program from the ground up since his arrival. His efforts have seen Iowa State climb on the national stage, highlighted most recently at the 2023 NCAA Championships, where the Cyclones had their best team finish since 2013 and highest point total since 2010. Please join me in welcoming Coach Dresser to the stage.
That's a good thing about getting old. You just got a long stat sheet right there. So get a longer stat sheet every year. I'm excited to be here. First off, since we're speaking of credentials, I'm going to introduce one of my colleagues who we just recently hired with our Cyclone Regional Training Center, which helps us support wrestling at the high school, the college, and the postgraduate level. It's the first thing I probably started when I got hired in 2017. It's a nonprofit organization that just supports wrestling in central Iowa, and it's based out of Ames, and we do all of our practices at our training facility here in Ames. But Allie Reagan, who's not Allie Reagan anymore, is Allie St. John, and we hired her on October 1st. She had a busy summer. She married one of my coaches, Coach St. John. And Allie's got some credentials of her own. She's a 2017, 2018 silver medalist in the World Championships for USA Wrestling at 59 kilos. So, Steve, you're going to have to get through her to get to me, okay? Okay, so you guys are the prelims, all right? I'm the finals. That's how we roll, okay? But Allie's, we come bearing gifts, Iowa State Wrestling, so if you didn't get it, we got some stuff that we want to, Allie, you're going to have to remind me right at the very end of my chat here we'll draw out, what do you got, 3 or 4 gifts? What do you got? 3 or 4 gifts. We got some Iowa State swag. We got some hats. We got some tickets to an upcoming match. So if you haven't, I'll have her start working the crowd while I'm talking here. But if you didn't get a red ticket, you got to win. You know, we're here to win. Wrestling coaches, we like to win. So I'm not in the game, so you all have a really good chance. So I think this table needs some. So Allie, you can work. Let's give Allie a hand. Allie will stand up and walk around here. And first off, putting me in a stationary position for a long period of time is impossible. So I'll probably move a little left and a little bit right here as we get going. But I'm excited to be here. You know, growing up in Humboldt, Iowa, my dad was a Rotarian. So I got to go to a lot of Rotary meetings. He brought me once a year. And then once I started winning a few wrestling matches when I was 16, 17, 18, seems like they wanted me around a little bit more. So I grew up going to a lot of Rotary meetings, similar 60, 70, 80 people. It was a great childhood memory. My father's passed now, but it was great growing up in Humboldt, Iowa. We got Mr. Reimers over here. I grew up with all of his uncles and his father, which is, if you know anything about Humboldt and the Reimerses, they dominated the town of Humboldt. I mean, physically dominated the town of Humboldt. His uncle Bruce was, all Big 12 twice. He got drafted. He played for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Bruce, when he was at Iowa State, he graduated in like 83 or 84 from Iowa State. He was probably back then, 6'9", 6'8", 6'8.5". He's probably shrinking now. 300 pounds, 6'8" back in the 80s was a massive dude. Great story about Bruce Reimers. He was my teammate wrestling. So my freshman year, I made the state tournament, and Bruce was a junior. And he was a good wrestler, but we had a really good heavyweight. And so the weight classes were 185 and then heavyweight. So Bruce played football his junior year at Humboldt, weighing about 230. And he's probably only just 6'6" then. So imagine 230, 6'6", cutting down to 185 to make the wrestling team. He did it. And he didn't look very good when he got there, but he did it. He was a bag of bones. But you know, the Reimers family is a very prominent family in Humboldt. Great people, great sports family. His brother, Bruce's brother Steve, and I were state champions together back in 1981. So the Reimers crew is quite well known in Humboldt. But anyway, I'm here to talk to you about Iowa State wrestling a little bit, answer any questions you might have. First and foremost, they say that I'm a promoter. Jamie Pollard's given me the nickname P.T. Barnum. I don't even know who the hell P.T. Barnum is, but he says I'm P.T. Barnum, so you can agree or disagree at the end of this. But my first job is to make sure you show up to Hilton sometime in the next month. We're home the next 4 weekends. Friday night, we got West Virginia. The following Sunday, we've got UNI. West Virginia is, I think, ranked 22nd in the nation. We were ranked 4th in the nation as of Saturday at 6 o'clock, and then the 5th-ranked team in the nation, Oklahoma State, beat us down in Stillwater, so we might slide a notch or two. But we get West Virginia, who's ranked 22nd in the nation this Friday. The following Sunday, we've got UNI, who I think will probably be around 14 or 13 in the nation. Then we've got an open tournament in Hilton. And then the last regular dual meet match will be against Missouri. And Missouri was ranked 2nd in the nation yesterday. So I got a photographic memory, so I will see every one of you at Hilton at some point in the next 4 weeks, okay? Allie's even got a couple free tickets you can win. But we have, I'm sure a lot of you got a chance to come watch the Iowa match. That didn't go exactly the way we wanted. But from a program building and getting Iowa State back, it's exactly what we needed. We wrestled. It's the first time Hilton's been sold out since 1982 for a wrestling match. It was on ESPN. Yeah, that's you guys, all right? It was on ESPN and had 285,000 viewers on the flagship ESPN. So if you figure that out, plus the people that were in there, 300,000 people saw a college wrestling match. And that can only happen in the state of Iowa. I can tell you that. People say, well, why'd you leave Virginia Tech? Because we were pretty good when I left to come to Iowa State, who was 57th at the time. I said, because it's Iowa. And there's no place in the United States. I've coached and wrestled in every state that there is, and nobody shows up like Iowans. So thank you for coming out. And again, I hope we see you soon. Got a good team this year, a fun team to watch. We need to finish really well. The NCAA championships are in Kansas City. We've sold over 650,000 or 650 tickets. Man, if we sold 650,000, that'd be awesome, all right? Our ticket office would be going even nuttier than they are right now. But we've sold over 650 tickets. We've got 150 rooms right next door at the Marriott that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, right down there in the Power and Light District in Kansas City. So I know we do have some left over if you want to get involved and go to the NCAA championships in Kansas City in mid-March. So we're excited about that. That's our final measurement and how we get measured and how good we need to finish at that particular tournament. But we've got a really fun team to watch wrestle. I tell our guys all the time, people pay money to show up at Hilton. And the last thing they want to do is see a guy out there stand around for 7 minutes. You guys are entertainers. You need to entertain. You need to get after guys. You need to put up points. Do what you got to do to entertain. And the fans like points. The fans like pins. And so that's our coaching style. We want our fans entertained. And I think, each year we're starting our 7th year now, if you count COVID. And I think we've got a little bit more entertaining each year. So I encourage you to get out and watch these guys. I think if you haven't been for a while or you've never been, you're going to enjoy the atmosphere of wrestling at Hilton Coliseum. So that's kind of present. I guess maybe just future a little bit. You probably heard a couple months ago we made an announcement. This is exciting, and this is maybe where I'll get you a chance to get involved in our program from kind of a community standpoint. We acquired the Iowa TAC building, Dixon Jensen's Iowa TAC building out on the west side of Ames. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. It's right out there by where our Sukup basketball facility is. We will begin renovation of that sometime this fall with the hopes to move in late 25, early 26. It's a 36,000 square foot facility that's going to be dedicated just to wrestling. We've raised over $7 million for it already. So Jamie loves me because that's $7 million he gets to keep. I keep reminding him of that, all right, when I need something, and you guys need to too, all right? But we're really excited about that. It's going to be the #1 wrestling facility in the nation and the world. If it's the #1 in the United States, it's going to be. Now, I'm sure down the road somebody will probably come surpass us, but think about 36,000 square feet for a wrestling facility. It's going to have a top-of-the-line weight room. It's going to have a training room over there that's going to be state-of-the-art, which basketball and volleyball will also be able to use because they're going to be out. Basketball is already out on the west end, and volleyball is getting ready to move out there. So we're going to have 4 pretty significant sports out on that end. There's even talk about our gymnastics team grabbing a building out there too. So that west part of Ames is going to be something. But our training room is going to be first class. It's going to be like a medical center as well as a training room for a wrestling team. So we've got all kinds of naming rights opportunities, and we've got lockers that people can put their personal names and their company on. So this is your chance to grab Allie afterwards. We've got some companies. I know Fairway just purchased a locker. These are 5-year financial commitments. People can pay right up front, or they can pay for the whole. They can spread it out all over 5 years. But it gives you a chance to put your name on something that's going to be there forever. And I told Allie we're going to have to move her office out to that facility, because that first year, the traffic down Highway 30, that building is going to sit right off of Highway 30, is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal because we're going to put a lot of history. And if you've been around Ames, Iowa for a long time, there's a lot of wrestling history in this town. We're going to have every All-American, every national champion, pictures, every national championship coach. It's going to have the whole, not only is it going to be an awesome training facility, but it will be a museum for the sport of wrestling at Iowa State University. And we have one of the top 3 richest traditions right there with Oklahoma State and Iowa, and Penn State starting to catch up. But that's the 4 blue bloods of wrestling in the last 100 years. So we're excited to get that project going. If you haven't seen that project, we've got some really good architectural videos out. Again, don't be afraid to talk to Allie if you want to see that and get involved in that. But there's all kinds of naming right opportunities to get involved in that project and get either your family name or your company name involved in that. So we're excited about that. Lastly, I'll talk about this because it's the buzzword around, and I know a lot of you supported it. And I just want to thank you and tell you a little bit more about it as it goes on. But this name, image, and likeness stuff is real. The sport, I can tell you when I signed up to coach even at Iowa State 7 years ago, I never knew that I would be spending so much time in the fundraising world. And it's a skill set you have to have as a head coach. If you don't have that skill set, you have no chance. You have no chance at football. You have no chance in basketball, and even in wrestling. We have no chance if we don't raise at least $1.5 million to $2 million just for name, image, and likeness for college wrestlers to come and to stay at Ames, Iowa. That's where it's at. And I know I see people back there shaking their head. Unfortunately, that's the culture we're in. If we want to retrain, if Iowa State has the kind of basketball year that I think they're going to have, there's going to be serious dollars needed to retain those athletes. That's just the culture that we live in. The NCAA got their butt whooped in court a couple years ago about taking these rights away from these kids because these kids are selling tickets, and now the genie's out of the bottle and it's not coming back in. And it's just the nature we live in. So I know a lot of you support the We Will Collective. We had some gentlemen up in northwest Iowa and Okoboji that started a collective for wrestling called the Cardinal and Gold Collective, and I think we raised probably up $400,000 or $500,000 in the last 8 months, and that's helped support our program. But that's where we're at, gang, and I wish I could tell you. I get asked that question all the time, so I know somebody's going to ask me that, so I'm just going to be proactive and tell you what it's about. But those dollars go to athletes. Now, those athletes do some work. They do some community work. So I would even ask you, like we packed lunches for a church here in Ames this summer that was sending meals to Haiti. Our whole team came out for a 4-hour period. We want to do that kind of stuff. It's good for our athletes to get in the community and get involved. So if you've got something, again, either see me or Allie, where our athletes can go out, and if we're going to pay them, they've got to do some work. That's just that's good community service for us, but it also makes sure we check the box so we don't get in trouble with the NCAA on our athletes getting paid. But it's real. It's here. Your dollars that go to the We Will Collective and the Cardinal and Gold Collective make a difference. I mean, it makes a huge difference for our athletes. It keeps guys. If we have a really good NCAA tournament, we have 10 weights. If we were to get 5 All-Americans or 4 All-Americans, those guys are all going to cost close to 6 figures to retain. That's just, or else somebody's going to come steal them for us for 2. David Carr got offered $300,000 within 2 days after the NCAA tournament last year. Over $300,000 for 1 year. That's David Carr, right? Of course, he didn't go, but he'd never made a cent at Iowa State up till that point. He made some sense this year. A lot of sense, right? A lot of dollars and cents, but not at that level. So the great thing about Iowa State is, our guys love it here. We're not paying those guys that kind of money yet, and I hope we don't have to get to that point, but we're going to have to retain them. When somebody's offering them that kind of money. In wrestling, it's probably only 7 or 8 schools that are paying guys really well. In football and basketball, it's everybody. 365 institutions are paying athletes. So that's where we're at. So I know everybody's really excited to hear that speech, aren't you? You guys just can't wait. Yeah. That's like so exciting. Coach Dresser came and talked to us how college athletes are being millionaires, and the donors and the boosters and the fans are supporting that cause, and that's really where it's at right now. So is it good? I don't think it's sustainable, number one. I don't know what 5 years is going to look like, but my fear is that there's going to be a lot of power. There's going to be some powerhouses, and everybody else is going to go away. And I know in non-revenue sports, it's really scary for us because at some point, athletic directors are going to go wrestling and gymnastics and track and baseball and softball. They don't bring no money. They're a financial liability. The only money that's being made is off of men's basketball and football. So why do we need these other sports? It's a scary climate out there right now for non-revenue sports. So with all that good news, I know I'll see all you guys at Hilton. I'm super fired up. I'm going to open up for questions. I don't want to wrestle anybody. Allie's my tag, all right? I got to have knee surgery. I got to get a new knee April 1st. So if you see me hobbling around, I'm not faking it. It's real. I've wrestled too many days in my life, and I think God's telling me I need a new knee, and he's right.
And remember, with questions, please wait for the microphone so those people that are online can hear what the question is.
I'll give you one more real quick. I just heard this yesterday. Brock Purdy's making $800 and some thousand this year. Caitlin Clark's making $2.2 million. Hers is called NIL money. His is called an NFL contract. Go figure that. You think she's going to stay around one more year or go to the NBA draft where she'll make a whopping, or the WNBA draft, she'll make a whopping $650,000 as a first rounder. I think she'll stay in Iowa City another year.
Coach, in general, has the rule changed this year to 3 points for a takedown from
Yep.
2 points? Has that increased the shot attempts across the board? And then I want that same question in relation to a match of just 2 top 5 rated wrestlers. Has it increased the shot attempts?
This guy knows his stuff here, all right? He's high wrestling intelligence. So all from the dawn of time, a takedown was worth 2 points in wrestling. Well, this year they changed it at the college level to 3 points. So that's just a big rule change. It's never happened. What I've seen from a 3-point takedown is I don't see the attempt ratio go up as much. But what it is easier to do, it's easier to separate yourself. If you're really good and I'm kind of good, you can bonus point me, which means you can major decision or tech fall me, which gets your team more points. So you'll see guys, for that reason, you'll see guys attacking more because they're trying to get bonus points for their team. That's the biggest reason right there. So hopefully I answered that question.
Back here, Coach.
Yes, sir.
What do you find is the biggest challenges in recruiting besides NIL?
When we got here, we were 57th. So, when I'd call really, really, really good kids, they'd hang up on me. That was rude. But we weren't on their radar, You can only brag about Dan Gable and Cale Sanderson so long. They're not here anymore. So we didn't have a whole lot to sell except for Iowa State and Hilton Coliseum. And that was my biggest selling point was I take kids to Hilton. I said, you know what? We were 57th last year. Our first year when we got here, we finished 45th. But we had the 3rd largest attendance in the nation. And wrestlers are all show-offs by nature, and they love wrestling in front of a lot of people. So that was my number one sales pitch for recruiting. And then as we've gotten better now, we call kids now, and they're excited to talk to us because we've been in the top 10 the last couple of years in the dual meet, and we got it going on, and we got some good young guys. So that's a good question, but it's getting easier. And anymore, there's 2 recruiting seasons. There's the high school recruiting season, and then the NCAA tournament's going to get over here in a couple months, and then for 45 days from about March 1st to April 15th, a whole new recruiting season starts. It's called the portal, and every kid that wants to get paid or change teams, and most of them are going to want to get paid, they're going to jump in the portal, because if they jump in the portal in that 45-day window, they can go wherever they want to go, no penalty of transferring, and it allows them to put themselves on the open market. And in wrestling, they can literally become a free agent every daggone year. So it's wonderful. We just have to keep recruiting our own athletes over and over again. I got a great job, don't I, huh? It's just splendid.
Coach, having coached at Iowa State in non-revenue sport of track and cross country, I agree with you as far as the fear of those non-revenue sports, losing those sports at Iowa State. But there is a gender equity issue. With the new facility that is you're going to move into at All Iowa TAC, is there plans to add women's locker rooms for the potential of adding women's wrestling?
I just don't think I think that's a good question. People ask me about women's wrestling. Again, Iowa State and every institution's got to be in equal with Title IX. So right now we have the same number, the percentage of men and women are the same. We have the same number of athletes. That's why we don't have baseball, and we have, that's when we have softball. That's why we have, we don't have men's soccer because we got women's soccer. It's to keep that Title IX thing even. Unless we can pick up another men's sport to add and make sure the women and the men are even. But again, you start a college sport, you're talking $3 or $4 million by the time you're doing travel budgets, coaching budgets, facilities. And I just don't see any ADs at the Division I level forking out $4 million when they could put it to football and basketball, and it would give them return on their money. So you see, I was the only Division I program out there. But see, during COVID, they dropped 2 female sports. And so the timing of bringing wrestling to Iowa, and I think what they found out is no Division I schools are picking up women's wrestling for that reason. Now at the NAI, the Division II, and the Division III, women's numbers are blowing up. But those institutions are all very enrollment driven. They're trying to get more. And the amount of ladies that are wrestling at the high school level now is crazy. It's the fastest growing sport in female sports is women's wrestling. I mean, I go to Humboldt High School. They got 38 girls out for wrestling and 29 boys. I'm not kidding. All right? And they both have basketball to offer. So, but I think it's going to be a D2, D3 NAI sport for the most part. Yes, sir.
Coach, why do you love the sport of wrestling? What does it teach a young man and young woman about themselves?
Well, growing up in Iowa, you get exposed to wrestling really early. So I remember being in PE class in kindergarten or first grade, and for me, it was a legal way just to roughhouse, and I just like kind of not really being a bully, but I just liked that. I was, as you can tell, I probably have some ADHD issues to this day still. So I couldn't get in trouble for throwing some dude down and rubbing his face in the dirt. If you didn't have wrestling, I would have probably never made it through school. But it was just the one-on-one mentality is what I really liked about the sport. And I played football, and football was really big in Humboldt. I love football, but I always had to depend on 10 other guys, and I was kind of selfish. I wanted to depend on one guy, and so I was always able to, you win, and it's a lot on you, and if you lose, and it's a lot on you. So it's hard to step out there in front of 15,000 people and not get your hand raised. So you got to really lay it on the line. It's hard enough to step out in that field or that basketball court and lose as a team. But when you lose as a wrestler, you lose. You lose. But you win as a wrestler, you win. So really extreme highs in the sport of wrestling. Good question.
Coach, you barely touched on it, but there's a difference between your collective and the We Will collective that we hear a lot about. Can you explain that real quick? And then last, Steve Goodhue has amended his challenge.
Okay.
He wants to
he's
wrestle
withdrew
you,
it?
No, April 2nd, the day after your knee surgery.
Well, if they give me that, what's that drug they give you? I'm not sure what it is. Is it some narcotic? If I have a narcotic in me, I'll probably still go, all right? But when that narcotic wears off, you got me, all right? We have a Cardinal and Gold, so Google Cardinal and Gold Collective, and you'll see a wrestling website and a chance to donate to our program. We have some people that donate $25 a month. We have some people that, we've raised. We got a couple donors recently. We had a farmer up in Jackson, Minnesota, that's pledged $2 million to our project. So we got everything from $25 to $2 million. So anything you can do to help us and help our group. And it's funny. Some donors out there love the idea of knowing that their money is going straight to a kid. Like, hey, this money is going to David Carr. They like that. There's other donors out there that think the concept just is gross and ugly, and they want the money going to a building, or they want the money going to putting their name on something. So it's just funny. As much as we go out and fundraise, we learn a lot about what people want, and we're glad we have both of those to offer. So, yes, sir.
Coach, last week there was a news story that blew up regarding the gambling probe. I appreciated your candid, supportive comments of your wrestlers, and just curious if you had any other further thoughts about where you see that going, and the consequences to wrestlers and others that got caught up in that this year. Maybe very specifically.
Well, if you saw my press conference Tuesday, raise your hand. They get scared when they give me the mic because sometimes I say too much. So we got a call the next day from, what was it, Fox News. They wanted to do me on national Fox News the next day to talk about it. And I think somebody at the administrative level gave me the hook, like exit stage left, because I think they just were worried that I was going to say too much. But what I said in my interview, I stand behind, and Jamie didn't call me. Usually if Jamie calls me within 48 hours, I know I said too much. So I didn't hear from Jamie after that interview, so I'll just be a little bit repetitive. But it's just unfortunate that these kids, their rights, and this was set up in such a illegal fashion, and then they lied to the kids. I remember getting those phone calls from my athletes. I think it was on May 2nd. They decided just to show up at all our athletes' place, knock on the door at 7 a.m. and say, hey, we got a piece of paper that says we're going to get your phone. And then on top of it, which I would have never given them my phone, they would have had to kill me, all right? But begrudgingly, most of my guys got bullied into giving their phones up. Kept them for 5 days, didn't have the proper paperwork to do it, and then told them on top of it that, hey, we're not here to get you. DraftKings and FanDuels, these websites for gambling, they've kind of illegally entered the market of underage, under 21. So we're just trying to get a grip on that. We're trying to get those guys. Well, a week later, 2 weeks later, there's legal charges, felony charges against our athletes, all right? So not only was it an illegal investigation, but it was also they went in lying to them and told them. And even some of the agents that did that didn't know what was going on. They went back and did what they were told to do, and then somebody at a higher level started writing, felony and misdemeanor charges against these athletes. So what's going to happen is these kids are all going to get a check. Like, I'm glad a couple kids I won't have to pay NIL next year because their legal charge is going to surpass their NIL check next year. So I'm off the hook for a couple of them. But it's going to be expensive. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the NCAA comes back and gives some of these kids their eligibility left, because if I've got a good attorney, I'm going to say, hey, all of this was done illegally. So it's just curious to see if the NCAA can unhear all of this, because there's no question those kids were gambling. And I want to be the first to say, I am not condoning those guys going out and gambling at high levels, all right? I can tell you this, the 90% of the males on that campus, athletes or non-athletes, are betting on their phone. It might be $2 here or there, but that's just what they do. My son's in a fraternity here. He's got 160 fraternity members. He said, Dad, every kid in my fraternity, he said, I can't name one kid in my fraternity that doesn't play on their phone. Kids just play on their phone, college kids especially. So I'm not condoning that these guys knew the rules and they weren't supposed to gamble, but none of my guys were gambling on wrestling. They were gambling on the game yesterday. But they were told they can't do it either. So, I see both sides of it, but the fact that these athletes were wronged is real. And the state's going to have to pay. And, I just wish somebody would step up in Des Moines and just say, hey, you know what, we screwed up, and it's on us. But I haven't heard that from anybody yet. That's disappointing to me. Told you I'd say what I think. Yeah. All right, we got a couple gifts to give away here, some parting gifts. Come on, Allie. All right, let you guys go for a draw, yeah? Let the president draw. All right, what's the first item, Allie? We got to give a drum roll. Can you read that? They get the whole bag or they get one thing? The whole bag. Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow. I'll just read the last three numbers. 024. What?
Oh, my gosh.
It's a good thing you didn't pick that one.
Starting to look like the gambling thing over here, isn't it? Huh? Starting to look like we got some illegal activities over here.
I'll pay him later. Last three are 022. Yeah, me again.
Do you have another one?
No. 022.
Check your tickets. Should we try another one? Okay.
983.
Yay!
Did you check your ticket? I did. Was it?
All right, gang, thank you very much. As they say, what? Go Cyclones.
Yes. Oh, that is funny.
Boy, yeah, we'd have had a little problem on our hands if you would have picked that out, Kent. All right. Well, it's not up. Don't have the books. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I would recommend if you have not gone to a wrestling meet before, and I'll be honest, prior to my son just started, he's in junior high. He just started wrestling, just picked it up, and so we started going to some of the Iowa State wrestling meets, and they are exciting. They are a lot of fun. And that Iowa meet, while it didn't turn out like we wanted to, was probably the loudest I'd ever heard Hilton Coliseum. When I can't remember who it was, but scored a takedown right away, and it was pretty fantastic. So go check that out. I hope this quote is right. You got to be careful pulling quotes off the internet. But about wrestling, Dan Gable, gold medals aren't really made of gold. They're made of sweat, determination, and a hard-to-find alloy called guts. So with that, please join me as we recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?